All right, it's 5 p.m. So we'll call to order the March 23rd, 2021 Commissioners meeting, Fire District 5. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
We got a second from anybody?
Second.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Incy,
Yes.
Commissioner Sudich,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Urbina,
Yes.
Chairman Wilsey.
Yes. Any upcoming commissioners' absences? Seeing and hearing none. Move on. Any communications?
None this week.
All right. I have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 9th meeting.
So moved. Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Incy,
Yes.
Commissioner Sudich,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Urbina,
Yes.
Chairman Wilsey.
Yes. All right. How about motion to approve some vouchers?
I'll move that we approve accounts payable vouchers as outlined in the agenda. Grand total of $230,409.87.
I'll second that and roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Incy,
Yes.
Commissioner Sudich,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Urbina,
Yes.
Chairman Wilsey.
Yes. All right. Moving right along. Local 3390 report. I think we have Jake tonight. Welcome.
Thank you. I actually have a report tonight. So about a month ago, a few of the BCs approached me with the idea of forming their own bargaining unit within Local 3390, kind of like our non-uniformed bargaining group. My initial feeling was that it was a good thing. I reached up to our IFF vice president as per policy, and he agreed. It's actually kind of a normal thing that goes on. There are a number of comparables out there that have chiefs bargaining units. I'm sure Tacoma does. So we held a vote, and that vote passed 6-0 with one abstention to go ahead and form their own bargaining unit. So just a heads up, we're going to be applying with PERC through that. And I think they get in contact with the department after it's been filed. So I can answer any questions about that. I don't have a whole lot of experience, so I can write it down for you and get back to you if needed.
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
An obvious question to me anyway. Who would be involved in this? You said the BCs, but it would be BCs, DCs. Exactly who would be involved in this separate unit?
Great question. Sorry for not clarifying. So it would be the 3 battalion chiefs and our 4 division chiefs. And that's actually a pretty standard size for a chief's bargaining unit. Found bargaining units from 4 all the way through 25 in size. So it would be made up of those 7. Any other questions?
So, yeah,
Yes, sir.
Jack, would you as president, and then would you still be doing the bargaining for them, or do they have their own person that would be actually at the table doing the bargaining?
So what Ricky Walsh, our IFFVP, suggested was that each bargaining unit should have their own vice president. So it would necessitate a bylaw change for us. And this new bargaining unit would have a vice president on local 3390's e-board. So our e-board would change to have myself as president, 3 vice presidents, 1 for the non-uniformed, 1 for the chief's bargaining unit, and 1 for the uniformed bargaining unit. So they would be, because a vice president provides them with kind of inherent negotiator. They have a place at the table then with a vice president as opposed to our current structure, which is a steward.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Help
And I
me
would,
out.
yes, sir.
I got one more question. What's the purpose of this? I know they're all members of 3390 now, so what's the rationale to stay under the umbrella but break away from the larger group? I'm not quite understanding.
I think the intent, and I don't want to speak for that group necessarily, but I believe that usually the intent with forming a bargaining unit within a local is to just to get a little more attention with specific things that have to do with that position. So a little more attention in contract negotiations to specific things that have to do with those 2 groups, not necessarily, money related, but more just contractual things. One thing that comes to mind is, for example, how the battalion chiefs, fill overtime. There's pretty lengthy processes for them there, or, things that have to do with being on days. The division chief rank has a lot of duties that are just different than your uniformed rank personnel. And so they kind of become just kind of a different thing overall, kind of like our non-uniformed people. So it's, to answer your question succinctly, I think it's just a little more attention to detail in contract negotiations for those specific positions. And Chief Doan might have a little insight on this. I know he's probably, got a bunch of experience with negotiating with chiefs, so.
I don't think I have anything more to add that President Flick has said. I think, and I haven't talked to any of them, so I'm just kind of assuming that they want, like Jake said, a little more special attention in their own contract to focus on their needs in that group. And I really am glad that all 3 of the bargaining units are going to stay within the same local with one president. I think that keeps it all in the family, that we're all in one union, one local, with 3 vice presidents. So when President Flick brought this to me and let me know, I was glad to hear they weren't going to break off and create their own local, and or maybe go with the Teamsters or something like that, or their own IFF local. So they're still in the same family. Jake's still the president, and I like that it keeps them all in the same family, and we have one team still.
Thanks, Chief. I did want to touch on one other thing. I just wanted to say thank you to the commissioners and give them kudos for having, a very transparent chiefs process, and, for just doing a great job. So thanks. That's all I got.
Thank you, Jake. Appreciate that. And thank you for letting us know about that upcoming change. All right, that takes us into Chiefs reports. I think we have Chief Johnson up first with a COVID report.
Sorry, everybody. Technical difficulties on my end. So good evening. Just a quick COVID report. Tacoma Pierce County Health Department reported 81 new cases today. So yesterday's count. No new deaths. On Monday, as most of you know, we entered phase 3. So Some spectator sports, eating and drinking facilities open to 50%, as well as occupancy for our buildings. If we're having a meeting or something in one of the rooms, we went from 25 to 50%, still maintaining some 6-foot distancing and the other COVID procedures in place. Vaccine update. There's kind of a lot happening there, as most of you have seen. We continue to offer those folks in our membership that haven't already gotten it, the opportunities, which more and more of those are coming. The support staff was able to kind of get included in that last week. So many of those members started their process. Upcoming in the harbor over the next 3 months, I've been contacted by the Tacoma and Pierce County Health Department, and we're going to work on scheduling 4 to 5 more mass vaccination sites at Chapel Hill. Chapel Hill's been a great partner with Tacoma Pierce County Health Department and us, and once again we'll be assisting with some EMS support just in case something is needed. The last thing, since Chief Meyer isn't on here, and I'm not sure if Chief Doan was going to cover it, but I'll cover it anyway, is one of our members, Lieutenant Peterson, was deployed to Yakima starting yesterday to start working on the Yakima area mass vaccination site. So the state's starting to bring in some of those IMT personnel to help them set up and run those mass vaccination sites across the county. If there's no questions, that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Chief. And I think we've got soon to be former Chief John Burgess. I think you're up on the order here.
All right. Well, thank you, Commissioner. It is a real honor to be, I guess I would say, sitting here in front of a monitor, giving my very last report. And I want to say, leading off, what a truly gift it has been to serve as the district's fire chief. And I know that I formally passed and transferred command to Chief Doan here now 2 weeks ago. It's been fun to work with him and continue to pass that torch and just to be a resource for him during this process. And with that, I thought it would be best to end with giving a report on the strategic plan. And here we are wrapping up our final year of that report or that plan. And with it, I thought I'd give you some highlights of what's been done. And at least in the last year, we've done some additional things earlier in the process, but also I'd be able to articulate some of the things that are still left there. They happen to line up very well with some of the stuff that Chief Doan is planning for next year, and I will leave that for him to talk about here in a moment. But with it, we've certainly done a lot of really good work. So I'm going to take the next 10, 15 minutes, if you will, and if you allow me, just to do a 10,000-foot picture of some of those things that we've done. And then there's been some new things that have come at us that we didn't anticipate, like who could have predicted a 100-year pandemic that really refocused us and caused us to focus on a very different challenge facing the fire department last year. And of course, we're not over it yet. And another new thing is that, finding my replacement, that was a big part of a lot of effort that's taken place. So with that, I will jump right in. Our strategic plan identifies things as specific goals, and we had a number of goals in the training division. And since our last report, I wanted to identify some of the things that have been completed through Target Solutions and its implementation. We have identified and communicated to the department our training standards that include all that are required by law and regulations. So a lot of effort went into that to get that placed into that program. It was one of those goals that we had as an organization. In addition to that, we took the training division and we reassigned them back to the operations division. And this was to ensure that our operational objectives are driving, that will always be driving the training priorities. So we felt it got a bit siloed where it was at, and bringing it back into the operations division, it really solidifies that operations is driving everything that we're doing in the training division. So that was a change. We also added an FTE, as you well know. It was budgeted to bring on a person that's going to be supporting the training division and supporting specifically Target Solutions in that program. So we're glad to make that happen. But here's one of the future action items that wasn't in our strategic plan in the training division that needs to be on your radar screen. It's certainly already on Chief Doan's radar screen. And that is that our training division chief has already told us that he plans to retire early next year. And so with that needs to be on our department's radar screen. So I listed that out for Chief Doan and the rest of the team as a future action, and that is just simply planning for that succession. Moving on to the next goal identified in the strategic plan is the district division group efficiencies and effectiveness. One of the big things that have taken place there is actually rebuilding the finance division. This really fell under Chief Bierstrom, and a lot of work has gone into creating redundancy. I mean, if you go back just a few years ago, you'll remember that Katrina was out and just had her beautiful baby girl, and she was already at home doing our payroll from home. I mean, we didn't have much depth at all in the finance division. And now we have 2 additional FTEs in the finance division. A great deal of training has gone into the finance division. We changed all of our financial software, which was a big lift for the finance division. And so a lot of really good work has gone in there. And I just want to applaud Chief Bierstrom and his entire team and all the good work that they've been doing. With that, there is one other future action. Again, this is a new item. It wasn't listed in our strategic plan, but we need to look at at a different choice other than Pierce County as our primary banking agent. Right now, they are our bank. They're the fire department's bank. They're the ones that we do much of our banking through. We have some other banks that we work with, but it is probably past due that we make that change, and so that's something that will need to be looked at here in the near future. Our prevention division, as you know, we're in an effort to 3-person engine companies. We have decided to move the prevention division out to 55. What that does is it gives us some level of presence out in one of those more rural areas, one of those rural fire stations. But more importantly, as it relates to this goal, we're also adding another person to the prevention division. So I just saw today that our HR department was out putting out an announcement of the budgeted position to add another person to the prevention division. So that's going on. We also, as mentioned earlier, supporting the training division, that IT support person isn't just doing the training work, they're also supporting a number of other software programs that provide greater efficiency and effectiveness in our divisions and groups. So we're glad to have that position filled. And then a big lift and a really important new position is Chi's position. Having an HR division instead of all of us doing little pieces of the HR division has really made a significant difference. And I know that you guys have seen that too, but we're hearing fantastic reports from our folks about the work that Chi is doing through the HR division. So other things that are facing this area of responsibility, some of the future actions. We have one old item that's still on the strategic plan, and then we have a new item that I'm going to bring to your attention. The old item is actually we need to attack and formalize our after action reviews. Our crews do a fantastic job at the back of the apparatus or pulling together after a fire or of doing an after action review. But we need to back that with a more substantial program, there's the word I'm looking for, to go along with our training division, so that things that are identified feed our training division. And so that's something that was identified, and that still needs to be addressed, and should not get lost in the transition. In addition to that, we know that Assistant Chief Eric Watson is retiring, and so I also have identified the logistics division and succession planning regarding that division, and that would be a new item. Moving right along to the next area is communications. We've completely revamped how we are communicating information, and it really came out of COVID. So a very nice thing that came out of COVID was really infusing the IMS models and their communication models and the way that we divide up work organizationally. And so today, our folks are having daily briefings. And this is something new that we've decided we're going to keep doing even after COVID. It's something that the operations division is really adopted. And I had a chance to just do station visits last week, and they're doing these daily briefings, and it's driving operational issues up for us so that we can identify them and correct things earlier in the process. So really thankful for that. We continue to have our weekly command staff meetings, and also quarterly, or even more frequently as needed, the whole command and general staff. So some really good stuff going on that came out of COVID that is improving our area of communications. Moving on to another goal, community relations and engagement. We have increased the use of social media significantly through COVID, and even pre-COVID. The work that Tina Curran has done in this area has really raised the bar organizationally. And then now being able to take this platform and show our commissioners meetings to our community and be able to use technology to help us has made a big difference. Our fall prevention program that we started for our first time falls in our community, we've had to put pause on that because of COVID, but we're eager to re-engage that and keep that moving forward. The other thing that is still out there on our strategic plan as an old item is whether or not we should rename ourselves. As you know, our formal legal name is Pierce County Fire District number 5. We have been using Gig Harbor Fire and Medic 1. The question really is do we continue to call ourselves Gig Harbor Fire and Medic 1, or should we be something different? So that is identified as a question before us. Do we need to change our name? I will leave that with Chief Doan and your very good hands as a board of whether or not that still needs to be done. But that was one of the things that has yet to be addressed in the strategic plan. Some of the other things that weren't in the strategic plan, though, that Assistant Chief John Johnson has been picking up as a result of the 3-person engine discussion and what do we do in our more rural communities, and that's the CPR and pulse point programs, and also launching the CERT program. So a lot of really good stuff there. Again, future actions weren't necessarily in the strategic plan, but is some important work that we got coming our way. Let's talk about funding real quick. One of the things in the strategic plan was that we identified we needed to continue to secure funding to support the mission of the fire department. And one of the things that I know that we're going to be talking about and is identified in the strategic plan is updating our CFP, our capital facilities plan. And with that, we're going to need to figure out how to fund it. And I know we've already had some preliminary discussions about funding, whether or not we look at the different models that are out there, bond measure. There are a number of ways to go about it. But that's going to need to be addressed in the next year. What do we do? How do we support the future funding for the fire department? I also want to talk about diversity. It was identified also as a goal. The work that HR and Chief Bierstrom have done to take away the EMT requirements for our firefighters that are coming in, we are seeing a greater diverse group that is coming in. we're talking about not just gender or racial, but also economic diversity. People that wouldn't otherwise be able to afford to go and be, I'll say it this way, prior to making this change, you really had to be either a volunteer or a private ambulance person to be able to apply for a fire department job. And so it really narrowed the pool. So now the doors are wide open, and I think we're seeing some really good stuff. We also have identified a need for additional diversity training. And so I know that the HR division is working on that as well. I'm just about wrapped up. I only have a few more goals remaining, but planning. This is the fourth, we just wrapped up the fourth year. We're now in the fifth year of this strategic plan, and we have a lot of needs coming for planning. And one big item of future action that needs to be addressed, and it was in the strategic plan, is being able to make data-driven decisions. And while we have gotten better at that, we are far from where we need to be in that area. And I know that Chief Doan's going to be talking a little bit about that. Resource management, boy, the fact that we've been able to aggressively hire and be able to get the staffing so that January 1 of this next year that we're able to get all 5 of our engines at 3-person engine companies is a big deal. And so thank you for the community for that support and the fact that that we're able to make that happen. But one of the future action items, and this is going to be a near future item for us, is going to be completing the standards of cover. As you know, Chief Nixon was working hard at that. We have a draft of this plan, but we need to get that. We need to get that across the finish line. That will drive much of the work that we're doing. And so, I know that Chief Doan's going to speak a bit to that. And then lastly, we have hired Rice Fergus Miller to update our capital facilities plan. And that, again, was one of our goals. And so a lot of really good work is taking place there. I know we have a couple of board members that are in that group. So all in all, I didn't go into a lot of the smaller detail pieces, but I'll tell you, in my opinion, we have done a lot of good work that was identified in this 5-year strategic plan. And we have some additional work that needs to take place in this final year. You've heard both Chief Doan and I refer to it as the planning year as we get ready to launch into 2022. And with that, I'll pause here and ask if there are any questions. All right, I bored you all. Thank you very much. I'll tell you, it has been an honor to be your fire chief. And with that, I will pass it over to Chief Doan.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Chief. And first, I want to tell you and thank all of you and thank Chief Burgess for this transition. I have never heard of a transition go so well. For an entire month to have 2 chiefs, but yet not have a problem for having 2 chiefs. You know, the first week and a half, he was the chief and I was just kind of his wingman, meeting people and learning. And then he pushed me out of the nest and made me become chief, and he became my wingman and my advisor for the last few weeks. It couldn't have went better. I'm scared. I don't want him to go. I want him to stay to continue to help me. And he's promised to continue to have coffee with me and help me along the way and let me bounce ideas off of him. And so even though he's going on vacation, he's not going to be far. He's going to just be a phone call away for me. And so I appreciate that and appreciate you allowing me to have that time with him, because it's been very, very valuable and it couldn't have went better. So I told you that I was going to try to, I think it was in my interview or one time I said my first year was going to be getting to know people and getting to know the community. Well, you're going to hear in a minute that we're going to compress a lot into a short amount of time. I've spent a lot of one-on-ones with all the battalion chiefs, the division chiefs, assistant chiefs, and everybody in this building. I've got to meet all of you and spend some one-on-one time. I've been going to the fire stations, having dinner at, I think I'm up to, I've done at least 6 dinners to meet firefighters. And I've spent a lot of time with President Flick just to get to know everybody here and listen. In the community, I've joined Rotary. I've been at the chamber meetings. I'm moving into Canterwood and joining. I've met the police chief. I have a meeting with the mayor coming up soon. I've attended the fire commissioner meetings and the fire chiefs meetings. Puget Sound Fire Chief Matt Morris and I have connected, and he took me mountain biking this weekend. I'm going golfing with Jeff Sorensen, the Deputy Chief of Central Kitsap, and Chief Dustin Morrow from Keypin and I have been on the phone multiple times talking. And then I went to lunch with Steve Wright, with the Executive Director of Washington State Council of Fire Chiefs. And so that's what I've been doing, is trying to get to know people and spend time with them and listen. And I kind of thought I'd do that a lot for the first year, but I've realized that although I'll continue to do that, we need to get to work. We got a lot to do in this year. So as of week 4, here's my kind of my future or my vision for what we need to do this next year. First and foremost is I want to thank Chief Burgess. What an incredible job! What a great career he's had. He has created a foundation for this fire department and this district that I get to launch from. And I'm so appreciative of that, and his leadership and what he's done as he read over the strategic plan, where he's taking this department in the last 10 years is incredible. And I appreciate it because it gives me a great foundation to work from. We have great labor relations, we have great board relations, and we have a great foundation. And I'm so appreciative of that. And the incredible team that he's created, and the partnership with the union and President Flick. And so that's going to make my job easy as we move forward. But then I also look at the next year, and it's going to be a planning year. The first gap that I've seen, and Chief Burgess mentioned it. It was in the strategic plan, just haven't got to it yet. Is the data analytics and the GIS and data analytics, and we have a pretty big gap there. So what I've been doing, and we need that to do the standard of cover, which is the next thing that I'll talk about, because you have to have that data analytics, you have to have that GIS background to create your standard of cover. So as I've been working through that, I've called a lot of people around the nation, called some friends, the Western Fire Chiefs Executive Director, Jeff Johnson, who's a friend of mine, to try to help me with that. How we do that. We've been working on it with other chiefs, and we're going to try to create a job description for that. And then I will bring that to you in the near future. Chief Bergstrom has kind of taken the ball now to what's this data analytic person look like, and how do we build that? So it's in the idea phase of day 2. So, but I will be coming to you pretty soon with that need of a data analytics person and a GIS person, whether we do it within current budget, or if we add a person. So I'll be doing that work very soon. Along with that data analytics person, we need some software to help us with that. To give you a dashboard each and every day. You should be able to pull up a dashboard and know all of our analytics for every engine, how we're doing on turnout time, how we're doing on response time, and on all of our key measurable things. You should know that at all times. There's 2 things that I've been looking at. The first is I call the guy named David Blankenship. I don't know if you've heard of him, but when it comes to data and analytics in the fire world, he's the guy. He actually founded a thing called Intera, and he works for the Western Fire Chiefs. He has agreed to come to Gig Harbor to help us just analyze what we have and help us build our path forward. And I'm really appreciative of the Western and David Blankenship. For us to get him to come to Gig Harbor is a big, big deal. The second thing I did was I reached out to Lori Moore. If you don't know Lori Moore, she used to work at the IAFF. She now works for the International Public Safety Data Institute. She did a demonstration for me the other day, and I'm having her do that demonstration for command staff to see what she can do to help us. So we're looking at Intera, we got Western Fire Chiefs, we're looking at other fire departments to see what they're doing. We're going to bring the International Public Safety Data Institute in and see to help us build our data analytics and our GIS program. And then we'll move forward on that to help us with the second thing, and that's the standard of cover. The standard of cover is key to bring the community, the commissioners, the command staff, and the department together to decide what our level of service is and where we're going in the future. And it helps us with the decision making of some of the decisions we're trying to make with our stations, our station placements, our engine placements, our trucks, where our staff goes. We need to do that standard of cover and our risk assessment in our community before we make some of those decisions. Now, that doesn't mean we stop the CFP process. It can continue going as we continue to look at our CFP, but we have to get the data analytics, the standard of cover, so that we can make great decisions as a district. In the CFP, you know that the training facility is a high priority for me and for us. Firefighter safety and community safety is very important. And so luckily we have already spent a lot of time on that and we have a good plan, but I've asked the team to reconvene and dust that off and make sure it's still good for today. And then you've seen a sneak peek of some of the stations. We have the ladder truck, we got logistics, we got multiple engines. We have a lot of CFP coming, and I'm going to have to wrestle that and prioritize that with you and bring that to you. And then we're going to have to talk about, as Chief said, how we're going to fund that and what our priorities are. The other thing that we need to do this year is we promised the union, and we need to lean into it. And that's 4th Platoon is happening at the exact same time. And then we have, as Chief said, we need to fill the assistant chief's logistics position, a division chief of training, and a battalion chief of ops. So, that's all we have to do in the next 12 months. But I'm ready for it. I don't think I thought I'd get to rest a little bit and kind of get to know people and listen a lot. But here we go. We got to put our foot on the gas because there is a lot to do in the next 12 to 14 months. But I'm excited. I think we have the right team to do it. I think we have the right people in place with you and the partnerships that we have with the union, and we bring it in the community. I believe that we're ready to succeed in this. We just got a lot of planning and a lot of work to do. So, at first it overwhelmed me, but after I've met this team and everybody here, I'm confident that we can get it done. And I'm excited for it too. What fun work, right? I mean, we get to run the Gig Harbor Fire Department. What's more exciting than that? And we get to, we got training and facilities and stations. I couldn't be more excited for the future and the things that we're all going to get to do together. So that, other than that, we'll have a good year.
Awesome. Thank you, Chief Doan. And I think we'll get to it under good of the order to later on to give our thanks to Chief Burgess and also our, thanks and for the vision for Chief Doan here as well. But anybody have any questions of the chiefs at this time for their reports here? All right. Any standing committee reports tonight?
The audit committee, we met here last Friday.
Yeah.
And we talked with Dan and Danette, and them about the audit, and we have the exit audit will be this Friday going out, and there will be more that we'll bring to the board next month and after that. But one thing that was pointed out was what John just talked about, was in regards to Pierce County and the control of the money, and definitely some changes that probably need to be made there. So that will be part of some of the things that will be coming out of the audit committee and bringing forward to by Dan and them to bring to the board in regards to some possible changes on this. So there'll be more coming in April at our meeting.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Any other standing committee reports? Missing anything or anybody? No? All right, that takes us to chairman's report. And tonight I just want to talk to everybody. You know, recently there's been some media attention brought to on this board and the hiring of Chief Doan. And I want to read a statement, you know, just to kind of address the issue that our transparency about this whole process got called into question. So the Board of Commissioners of Gig Harbor Fire Medic 1 believe it's important to provide to our community information detailing how we conducted our search for a new fire chief. Throughout the process, we've been transparent and have allowed the public to observe and provide input every step of the way. Now, at the end of 2019, Chief Burgess, who has been the chief since 2011, announced his plans to retire in 2021. The Board of Commissioners realized that the selection of the next fire chief was critical both to the organization and to our community. We decided that no subcommittee would be formed to oversee that search process. Now, this was intentional, as it meant all 5 members of the board would be involved in every decision at an open public meeting, rather than meeting as a subcommittee, which is not required to be had in public. To assist with this search in 2020, we hired Prothman, and they're a firm that specializes in executive recruitment. Prothman assigned Mark Risen to assume responsibility for conducting our search. Mark is retired 2017 as the chief of the Bellevue, Washington Fire Department after 38 years as a career in the fire service. Chief Risen conducted several meetings with stakeholders throughout Gig Harbor Fire and Medic 1, and came to understand the needs of not only our community, but to develop a position profile. Prothman began soliciting applicants for the position in the fall of 2020 by advertising on their website, other online sources, in print, and by sending direct mailers to fire departments throughout the entire United States. Applicants were screened by Chief Risen based on his assessment of their qualifications and interviews which he conducted. From Chief Risen's work, a list of potential candidates came and was provided to the Board of Commissioners here at Gig Harbor. And at an open meeting on December 8th, 2020, the board conducted a roll call vote on each candidate that was nominated to be a finalist. This vote was broadcast to the community via Zoom and was also streamed on YouTube. We took this vote publicly to ensure that the decision-making process continued to be transparent. Interviews of the finalists were conducted on January 15th, 2021. Prior to the interviews, the board sought input from the community, asking that they send us questions to pose to the finalists. Chief Kelly Busey of the Gig Harbor Police Department served as the moderator. The same questions were asked of each candidate, and it was made clear to those that viewing the proceedings whether the question had come from the labor group, the commissioners, or the public. 6 of the 18 questions asked during the interviews of each of the 3 finalists were provided by members of the community in response to the board's request for public input. Each interview was broadcast via Zoom and live streamed on the department's YouTube channel, where they still, to this day, can be viewed. After the interviews were completed, the Board of Commissioners set another special meeting on January 20th, 2021 to take input from the community and then make our final hiring decision. We set this meeting on the Wednesday after a 3-day holiday weekend, so that those that could not watch the interviews live had the opportunity to view them on our YouTube channel, and provide the Board of Commissioners feedback prior to our final decision. At the special meeting, the feedback provided to the board from the community was unanimous. They believe we should hire Dennis Doan as our next fire chief. Based on his experience, interview, and community feedback, the board extended a conditional offer to Dennis Doan to be our next fire chief. The offer was initially conditional because the board contracted with Public Safety Testing to conduct a detailed background investigation of Chief Doan. This investigation was conducted without any input from the Board of Commissioners to allow it to be completely independent. The background investigator conducted 24 interviews and delivered to the board a 45-page report, which was extremely positive and expressed no concerns about Chief Doan. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, an in-person review by the background investigator of Chief Doan's personnel file from Boise was not possible. Instead, the background investigator contacted the Human Resources Department of the City of Boise and asked them to perform a review of Chief Doan's personnel file, with a particular emphasis on identifying and relaying any information in the file that was negative. The Human Resources Manager of the City of Boise advised the background investigator that they had reviewed Chief Doan's personnel file and it contained no documents of a negative nature. Once the background investigation was complete, the board finalized our offer to Chief Doan, and he was officially hired as the next chief of Gibbet Harbor Fire and Medic 1. Throughout this process, your Board of Fire Commissioners has engaged experienced professionals to assist in the search for our new chief. All decisions have been made in public at meetings where input may be received from the community. We are incredibly appreciative of the feedback we have received. We asked for your input, and over again, you provided it and came through for us. Your help tells us that our efforts to conduct a process that was open, accountable, and transparent were successful. Now, and I hope that everybody can see that today, because I can see the energy in Chief Doan and where he wants to take this fire department. And I definitely believe he is the right person for the job. I think the community feels that he's the right person for the job. And I just wanted to make that statement and clear the air, because this really isn't about Chief Doan and calling this board's transparency into question. It's a little bit ridiculous after I've just explained to you the process that we took to get here. So with that, I'll open it up to any other commissioners that want to make any comments at this time. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to old business. Is there any old business that needs to come up before the board here? All right, seeing none, new business. Any new business for the board tonight? All right, open public comment. So if we have anybody in the audience wishing to make an open public comment, please come forward, state your name for the record, and you will have 3 minutes. Anybody coming forward? I don't think we do.
We got
Donnie's
one
raising
hand.
his
somebody?
hand, Alex.
There we go.
Yeah, we have one hand.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hargroves, welcome. You're muted, Mr. Hargroves, if you're saying anything.
How's that? Is that better?
There we go. We got you now.
And now I got a picture. Okay, good. I'm out of town, so hey, that's a plus. That's the reason why I haven't been in the meeting. So John Hargroves here in Gig Harbor. I just want to say great thanks to, I guess we could say now, former Chief Burgess, and a congratulations to new Chief Doan. And I have to compliment you on that, Chair, regarding recap on the transparency of the process for the hiring. I was involved with some of those and listened to those hearings and so forth. And I saw no problems there from my perspective as a citizen of Gig Harbor. So appreciation to the Board of Commissioners there. And with that, I just wanted to say a great thanks to Chief Burgess. Congratulations to Chief Doan. And I'm, like I said, I'm out of town, actually in Nevada right now. So I'll leave it to you, actually Las Vegas. I know I'm not gambling. So not a gambling person. So I'll leave it to you folks and continue on. So appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hargroves. Appreciate the support as always. Anybody else in the audience wishing to make a public statement here or comment? All right. Seeing none, we'll move to good of the order, and I'm going to take some liberty here and lead off. I'll get right on the back of Mr. Hargroves there and really express my appreciation for Chief Burgess. Chief started here in 2011 before I was a commissioner on this board, but as starting in a position of leadership myself at the same time, the incredible challenges that were laid before us from 2011 until just recently were significant, right? Coming back from the Great Recession and having to make difficult decisions on running lean and shutting down rigs and looking at budgets and saying no to things that we should have said yes to. That was a difficult time, and to have come through it with the budget in the condition that it's in and the department being staffed as it is now today is an incredible accomplishment. And to think of some of the things that the chief's highlights through the years, the EMS levy lid lift, a huge shot in the arm to the budget of this district, and such important work that was done to be able to do that, which led to our increase in staffing. I'll go back further with transport services, right? Right now, we're in a great position because of Chief Burgess making the decision back, I'm not sure of the year, but to start doing transport services rather than to contract with a private entity. Being able to provide that service to our citizens is priceless, right? There's not a value you can place on that. And to be able to at the same time put more firefighters on the street while doing that is what I don't think that the fire department would have survived these years without having some of those medic units be right there when that first engine company got on scene of some of those fires. That is just, like I said, you can't put a value on that either. The chief started in 1987 as a volunteer out here and then went to Graham for a short time, but then came back to us. He worked his way all the way up through the ranks. He was a firefighter paramedic. He was a lieutenant. He was a battalion chief, and then now a chief. But to do that route and to work that hard and going to TCC and getting his own, paramedic certification, and probably spending a lot of his own time and dollars to better himself for us over all these years. I just can't say enough about Chief Burgess and the great work you've done. And I really hope that you don't go far, just as Chief Doan said. And I'm really lobbying to get you some residents about South 36th Street and Pacific Avenue. But we'll leave that up to you. And with that, I'll turn it over to any other commissioners that like to say something. Commissioner Ency.
Thank you, Chairman. As you said, John started in 1987, and I started in Gig Harbor in 84. So I have known John for a long time as the police department, only having 5 people at the time I started, and District 5 having only about 5 full-time. Depending on the volunteers was a big part of the program. So, I've watched John through his career and the 20 plus years as being on this board, and not only just what the type of person John is on the board, I've seen what type of person John is in our community. And he involvement with Rotary, involvement at the high school, he's a role model through all sorts of work that he does. His kids reflect John in just being great people. And so he's been not only a great person for this district, but he's a great person for our community. And it will be a loss for us, obviously, when anybody leaves after that amount of time. But I am definitely thrilled to what we have coming in with Chief Doan, and I'm looking forward to that next step that we have in our department with Chief Doan at the helm. And John, I know you're not going to go far. You're still going to have a kid in college, so you can't go too far. So I just appreciate everything that you've done for this department and for the community over your years here. Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Sedich.
Yeah, I'd like to, everybody's pretty much covered the chief as far as District 5. I'd like to, my personal thanks when he was basically a brand new chief. And Kevin and I were on the board that appointed him. I was fortunate enough, and I'll never forget it, he took me to a resort in Eastern Washington, sort of a resort on Lake Lanise, and it was the most enjoyable trip I have ever had. And to the day I die, I will never forget that. And I will try to repay the kindness someday. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Tom, I think Tom brought up something important, which is kindness. And I came on the board in 2013, and you never know what the dynamic's going to be sitting in our seat with the people that do John's job and the other chiefs and members of the department. But the entire time that I've been on this board, and I tell this to everybody that I come into contact with, it has been such a positive experience because of the people that work for this department. And inevitably, that's a reflection of the leadership of the department. And I think that's a direct reflection of John and who John is. This department is so highly regarded in the community because of his leadership. And obviously it's due to the work of everyone else in the organization. And there's a term that I like to use that, we stand on the shoulders of giants. And I think that we all can relate to that. And we all stand on the shoulders of the good work that everyone does in this organization. But in particular, John has been so kind and gracious and positive with me. And I just really value that relationship that I have with him personally. And it's going to be a loss to the organization. And, no pressure, Dennis. I mean, hearing all this. But I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for Dennis coming in and doing what he's going to do. But, it's John, I'm going to miss you.
All right, so it's my turn. I moved to Gig Harbor 12 years ago, and Bob Black at the time was the chief. And I joined the Midday Rotary Club and got to know Bob. Got to go golfing with him. Just had fun. Great guy. And then he told me he was going to retire and he was going to bring the new guy in to the club so we could meet him. And it's, similar feelings as today, right? You had a great chief, you love the guy, and he's leaving and he's going to bring the new guy in. And then I met John, and John jumped into Rotary and just sparked, his enthusiasm, his just genuine niceness, kindness. And it was such a welcome addition to the club. And then he continued to volunteer on different committees. And then, like Kevin said, at the high school, I got to work with John a little bit with the Interact Club for a little while. And I just appreciate the man that he is. And Dennis, I love you so far, but you've got big shoes to fill, buddy. And And we're going to miss you, John. That's all I got to say. And I know I'll see you around town, and I hope we stay in contact. I value your friendship, your opinion when we talk on matters. It's just you're so kind and so insightful. And hopefully we can continue that in the future. So thank you, John.
All right. And I missed one point on my my notes here is a sign of a good leader is really assembling a great team, and nobody can do the work that they do without a great team and support. And I think you've done that, Chief Burgess, and I think you've set up Chief Doan very well with your team that you've given to him, and he gets to inherit and work with in the future. So, and with that, I have to thank Commissioner Nelson too for helping me draft that statement tonight. So we're we're a great team as well, and we always work together to try to get things accomplished. So with that, any more items good of the order? Anybody have?
Well, I would just like to respond. I feel like I should say something really profound or really, but I won't. But really, what I want to say is you all were way too kind. It is our people. I think I got the credit of all the really great work that our people do. Our folks on the line and the day-to-day grind and the work that they do is top tier and top shelf. And I'm just thankful for them and thankful for the local and President Flick and the presidents before him. I've had just great presidents and great relationships with them. And it's because of those relationships that we overall have been successful, and the support that I've received from the board, again, top shelf. And I remember talking to Chief Doan just a couple of days before Christmas, and you guys had given me the opportunity in my role to be able to talk to all the candidates. And I remember being able to describe what a good and healthy relationship that I've had with the board and with the community and with the local, and really truly how rare I think that is, particularly for this long tenure. So with that, thank you for the very, very kind words. I feel really blessed. I feel humbled and very honored, and I'm going to miss you too, more than you know. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Any more good of the order? Anybody have anything else? All right. Seeing none. Any special interest or upcoming events you need to let anybody know about?
Alex, I actually have one thing good of the order. I think that given what we've gone through the last year with COVID, I think when we come out of this, and I'm confident we will, there's been a number of people that have retired over the last year, to include John. And I think that we need to make a point to celebrate them at a meeting when we're back in action.
Yeah, here. I think we should. I think we should all not just at a meeting, but get together in person somewhere and have a very large celebration of not only those that have retired from us, but those celebrate Chief Doan here at some point too. And it's a little unfortunate the circumstance that we're living in right now, but I look forward to the future and getting together with everybody. So
yeah, that'll be a big cake.
Yeah. That will be, yeah, we'll have to get a table for that one. Yeah. All right. Any special interest, upcoming events that we need to make anybody aware of before we adjourn? All right. Our next break. Yep. Go ahead, Tanya.
Sorry, I have one thing. Thursday night, there's a county commissioner meeting for anyone who's interested.
All right, and then our next regular meeting will be Tuesday, April 13th at 5 p.m. Stay tuned. We're kind of monitoring this new phase 3 with Governor Inslee and seeing what the meeting recommendations are, and we'll get a notice as soon as we decide on whether that meeting will be in person or still on the Zoom platform here. So just everybody stay tuned for that. With that, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, Chief Waters? Chief Waters, are you there?